Hey guys, talk about NEXI. Let's see if I can show you my chart. Trying to find the easiest way to do this. Kind of ridiculous chart. Um, Made a pure bookmap read long. We'll go over why this long worked. It's the same long as VVOS and MINN that I missed. I missed both of those. I'm like, all right, if this is the market where this type of thing is happening, if I see it happening again on the book, I'm just going to long it because continuation is so big on these names that there's no reason. I mean, this is really the market's telling me these are the types of moves that are happening, and yeah, we take those trades. So I longed in, long at the top, long at the top, at in the eights and sold straight in the 12. The bid, there's a lot of bids following this up. We'll go over the book map, but there were very little bids up here, and I'm like, you know what, this is already kind of a ridiculous move. Um, I'll just exit that, which was nice. And that was, I'm like, all right, I'll wait for some type of structure. I'm thinking that we had a crazy day in VVOS, crazy day at MINM. Usually on the third day, stuff starts to get a little weaker, so I'm already kind of being short biased. And I actually missed the trade here. This was a total miss because we had a nice higher low, lower high structure, very clean bull flag structure with the higher lows, and then a big volume rotation over this $12 level, right? And I just didn't act in time. I'm like, man, I was like, why didn't I short that? And then it came back, and then I noticed, we'll go over the book, that there was an ask at 11.8. I'm like, all right. And also, there was nothing on the book between the current price and 11.8. I'm like, let me see if we get a push towards 11.8. And then not just push 11.8, but also what happens there, right? And what do the bids look like? And what's really funny is we'll go over it, but essentially 11.8 ask got taken out, and it was replaced by a hidden seller. The stock refused to move. I put my order at 11.50. I got filled, and then it down halted. It halted um, on pending news, right? Because this is a company that pretty much said a month ago that they were dissolving, cease operations, and the Nasdaq wanted to contact them like, hey, your stock's running 400%. Why? We need more information. And these could be really risky because there's been situations in the past where um, stuff like this happens to Chinese companies and these like shell companies offshore, and sometimes they can be halted for weeks and months. But I was a little more confident that this would unhalt relatively quickly because it's an American company. I'm like, all right, it's an American company, and they they submit their filings, and usually American companies are a little better about getting back to the SEC about situations like this. So I'm like, I was obviously hoping it would halt before end of day or before 8 p.m. I thought maybe it would unhalt in the after hours. Um, but I did expect a gap down. I'm like, all right, like they're gonna come out, and then the news came out that they were getting delisted. So I'm like, oh man, this is gonna gap down real big. But then I thought, well, they're gonna appeal the delisting, and maybe this will be stuck in appeals, and this thing won't be unhalted, and it might take weeks for the appeal process, or to go through, and who knows how long it's gonna take. But luckily, it just unhalted in during market hours, and I was able to pretty much just cover right away because I know it's like the thinking would be, oh, it's getting delisted, therefore it's going to unhalt and go to zero. I wish, but I still kind of apply my same manipulation games, right? Like there's always like shorts who short out of the unhalt too early and then they get squeezed. You know what I mean? Like there's still like manipulation stuff happening because the float's so tiny. So that's why we get this up only squeeze. We get the little bull push. The bull push fails. I short it again. And then I just actually scalped this move, the 20% scalp, to in the sixes because I wanted to go take a shower. So I just want because I've been the market's really busy, haven't had time to do it in the morning. So it's like I'll just cover here and then I'll just go and that'll be that. I wasn't planning on swinging it because price overnight fees might be really expensive and stuff like that. So um, yeah, crazy trade. So we'll go over the book. Um, Especially for the long. I think the long is really interesting. So here's the book. Um, maybe uh, maybe hide the book. Okay, so Here's the chart. Somebody in my room, I think Kyle in my Discord room, long this in the fours. We'll see the cleanest book map right off the 1 minute 20 under UAP. Super, super clean book map long. He longed it from four up to the eights and nines. So he made about 100%. I got on my computer right as this was pushing, so I missed it. Um, but he made about 100% in about, I don't know, 6 minutes. So congrats to Kyle, killing it on the book map reads in my Discord room. Information down below. And then I longed it here, which seems like a huge chase. But if we go to the book, we could see that. So here's the first long, right? So we get the quick pre-market pop. But what, like the thing about in my videos, I'm like, what makes a quick pre-market pop potentially bullish? And we've seen this over and over again this week. Is you get your big pullback, right? And then look at all these bids. Look at the order book imbalance, right? Very thin book to the top, just no orders on this thing. And it's not just one bid, it's stacks. Like you love to see at deeper support levels, you actually really do like to see not just one bidder, because the thing about one bidder, which can work, it depends on the context, but overall, sometimes if there's like one guy who's at 20,000 shares and then there's nothing under the 20,000 share guy, you do risk that 20,000 shares either pulling, like he pretends to be there and he's not there anymore, or um, or he gets sold into, and if there's no bids down to between 4 and 2.8, it'll just crack to 2.8, and you don't want to be long that. So it's really nice to see multiple bid stacks. And if we look at this is my Discord, right? If we look at this, here's NEXI, right? NEXI. You see the bids, okay? We scroll up, VVOS. Same thing in the pre-market. The bids following this up, bids following this up, bids following this up, and then we go to MINM. Bids following us up, bids following us up, bids following us up. So this is all my Discord, by the way. I have a lot of stuff in here. This isn't just these three charts. This is a bunch of bookmap stuff on what really strong stocks looks like. And then, of course, shorts. Like, here's all the short stuff. Like, this is what really wicks stuff. And then filled with a bunch of other stuff over here. So, that information is down below. So, but yeah, we see, if I see VivoS did this move, I wasn't long this. I should have been. MINM, I ended up trading this okay during market open hours, but I saw this move coming out of the fours here, right? And I saw the bid support, and outside of a few asks, it was pretty empty to the upside, and in my mind, I was like, this thing's up a lot, and I don't know, it's a little bit risky, but I'm like, this is the type of, like, you really have to adjust to the market you're in, right? So anyway, how do I do this? There we go. Back to the book. So my long was up here. So I see the big parabolic. I see that there's no orders up here, right? And then very simple read. It starts to, high day, and then it pulls back from this high day. The book's really empty, but then I see this big come in, and then I see this stack, and I just start longing here. That's why I went long. I went long here, right? I went long in this out, because it's the same thing as down below. It's not just one bidder; it's many bidders. So you have this very obvious order book imbalance, right? And then you have strong market. You have tiny float stocks making big moves, right? You're just putting all the pieces together, and then we get a perfect push. Like bids, push, bids, push, and as long as bids are here, bids are here, bids are here, bids are here. As this is asks are getting broken and new bids are showing up. This is really exactly how stock squeeze. This is exactly how they squeeze. Outside of ones, sometimes they just get straight market ordered. But the reason I started selling was because I see the bid support down here. And sometimes you can wait for new bids to show up and see if anything happens. But I was like, this is already I just longed a stock up like 250%, and it went up another 50%. And the bids are getting thin. I'm just like, you know what? It's really, I don't blame anyone for selling into strength, and taking the money while you can, and especially on the long side. On long, because the thing about longs you need constant momentum and constant bids. So it's very longs is very different from shorting. Shorting is reading liquidity. Often you're reading liquidity traps at the top, and then you're just holding as the stock fades, right? And there's many different ways of stock and fade. But when you're longing, you constantly need volume, you constantly need bids, you need a lot, like in order to like really make money long in low floats. You need the volume and the bids, and you never know when those volume and when those bids are gonna leave. Is especially as stock starts going like this 10 to 13 in about 20 seconds, right? And it's like it's like you just don't, and I can see that there's a lack of bids following this up. That doesn't automatically make this a short, because again, we zoom out, there's still not a lot of offers to risk into up here, but you do risk your $13 stock quickly becoming a $10.5 stock. So you kind of like, so if you don't see the bids there in parabolic, sometimes you're just like, oh, I'm going to sell here just because, it could be the difference between making 40% on a trade and 20% on a trade, right? In a matter of seconds. Sometimes in low floats, it could be in a matter of seconds. So anyway, we'll go back to the, not this. We'll go back to the chart. It starts to consolidate. I love the C structure. This $12 level is very painted. Don't know why I didn't take this. I think I wanted it closer to 12.5. We can try to look at the book. That push is this push. Oh, it was this. I thought 12.5 was a little empty, and then 13 was the next level. So, even though there wasn't a whole lot of bids following this up, but I wanted something a little clearer on the book map. And then the asks start to come in here, which is really, if you shorted this in a 12, this is like exactly what you want to see. It's like, it's the stock's extended. There's not a lot of bid support, right? Just new ask, new ask, new ask. That's nice. I'm like, all right, well, I kind of missed that trade. And I noticed this big 1180 guy here. We go left, and then look at this. The thing about this is like, unless you're short over here with a good average, I don't want to short down here because there's all this empty space, right? I don't want to short 1080 when the next big ask is at 1180, right? It's almost always best to be patient and wait for the manipulated push to that level, right? So that's what I do here. We get the manipulated push. You can actually see here that it fills the 1180 guy, and it pulls back and then starts selling into this 1180 guy, and there's a hidden seller there, and then I start shorting. I get filled. It's not really a lot of huge size because this is kind of just very spready. This was kind of very discretionary. I was just kind of hoping this hidden seller will hold. The hidden seller is not going to show on bookmap, so that he is there. I get short, and then this guy comes in, and then it halts, right? So yeah, that's my thesis behind this short. I thought it was okay. I'd rather have been in on the on this guy here, preferably in the 12s. Probably would have been better, but I had to kind of take a secondary entry based on the bookmap reads. And yeah, I got really lucky. And this unhalted at 2:26 p.m. I actually didn't see the unhalt right away, and then I just covered on the first kind of pullback, and I was like, what? And then yeah, I shorted. I mean, here's your classic, all right? Like, shorts get in too early. There's an up only little mini squeeze. This is actually like almost like 100% move. Isn't that insane? This is actually the book map on this move is really interesting. If we go to that book map, on this short squeeze, we can actually see. You can see. Here's that dump, and you could see the bids come in. So we got bids. We got bids. It pushes with a lot of empty bids. It comes down to this guy, rotates with new bids, and this is actually like, you could see this, like, there's this like 570 guy here, and then a totally empty book up top. And this was actually kind of like a super big brain long. Like you could have longed in the 5.9s and the low sixes, and you could have held into at least the sevens, and then we got some small bids who don't get tested, small bids that don't get tested, and we get a big push to 8, and then we start to get some resistance. And then, yeah, go back to this. This is the classic little long trap, right? You get a big squeeze from the early short sellers. You get your nice little, see if I can actually draw retail. Here's a little high volume breakout here, right? Big push, starts to form higher lows. Secondary push, the secondary push doesn't go anywhere. I short that push, and I just and this was very discretionary because the book was actually really empty on both sides. Like there wasn't a lot of orders to the upside or the downside. I was just purely making. I was like, that's a long trap candle. I'm just gonna go in, and then I just took it off in the sixes. And that was my trade. And now look at it's still. This is getting delisted, and it's still doing manipulated stuff. So I was not really interested in swinging it. I'm very happy that it unhalted, and yeah, that was my trade. I kind of wish I was in on this candle. I don't know why I wasn't. I mean, I do know why. I just need to adjust my thinking. I think the structure was more than good enough, even though the book map was just okay. You know, very very clear, like little long trap structure here. So, anyway, NEXI, really insane. I'll do a quick video on HCDI and I'll be done. See you guys.